Hello and welcome back. So in this lecture, we are going to work on showing which users are online in the chat list. So if you go to our application, currently two users are logged in to our application. One is John Smith and one is Mary Jane. So for John Smith, he's having chat with these many users, but not all these users are online. In this case, in case of John Smith, only Mary Jane is online. And for Mary Jane, she's having only one chat, that is with John Smith. And since John Smith is online, we want to show John Smith as online. So we want to show some indicator showing that John Smith is online. And for John Smith, we want to show Mary Jane is online and all other users are offline. So we are going to work on this functionality. And in order to show a user online, we are simply going to show a green border around the avatar or the user profile pic. Okay, and we are going to do it in 5 simple steps. So let's first go to our React application, our front-end application. There, let me close this index.css for now, and let's also close this chat.js. We are going to work in this user list component, but before that, in the index.js file, in the home component, what we are doing is we are emitting an event from here called join room. So whenever this home component will be rendered in the web page, this join room event will be raised. From here, we want to raise one more event. And for that, again, on this socket, we are going to call the emit method to emit a new event. And here, let's say the event name is user logged or user login. So basically, when this home component will be rendered, that means the user has logged in, and after that only the home component is being rendered. So when the user has logged in, that means that user is online. So we are calling this event user login, and with this event, we are going to emit the user ID as the event data. Okay, so it should be user dot underscore ID. Let's save the changes here. And now we are going to handle this user login event in our server code. So let's go to our app.js file in our Express application. Let me retract these. And here also, we are going to listen an event. So for that, let's say socket.on. And to listen to this event, basically we want to listen to this user login event. And whenever this event will happen, we are going to handle that event. And to handle that event, we are going to pass a callback function. That callback function is going to receive a user ID, because with this user login event from the client side, we are emitting user ID as the event data. Now, what we are going to do is here, before we are listening to events on this IO, before that, let me go ahead and let me create a global variable. And I'm going to call this variable user or online users. And inside this online users, we are going to store an array, and this array is going to store the user ID of all the online users. So inside this callback function, this event handler function, we are going to check if the user ID, which we are receiving with the event data, if it is already present in the online users array. So here, let's say online users dot includes, and we are going to pass this user ID here. So let me copy it and let me pass it here. So if this user ID is already present inside this online users array, we don't want to do anything. But if that user ID is not present inside this online users array, so here let me use the not operator. If it is not present inside this online users array, then we are going to push that user ID in this online users array. For that, I'm using this push method, and there we are going to push this user ID. Okay, and after that, we are going to raise another event from our server. So to raise an event, again, we are going to use socket.emit, because this event we want to raise for all the clients. This event we don't want to raise for any specific users. We want to raise it for all the clients, for all the users, because we want to show online users for all the logged in users, right? So we are going to emit this event to all the connected clients, and I'm going to call this event as online users. And with this event, we are going to emit this online users array as the event data. Okay, let's save the changes here. So this is the second step. In the third step, we are going to listen for this event in our React application. So after this line, we are also going to listen to an event. So for that, I'll say socket.on, and here we are going to listen to that online user event. And when this event will happen, we are going to receive the online users array as the data. So here also, let's simply call it as online users. And what do we want to do with this online users? Well, let's go ahead and let's create a state here. So in here, let me go ahead and let me create a variable. Let's call it online users. Okay, here we are creating a state. So let me wrap it within square brackets like this. And let's also specify a state updating function. Let's call it as set online users. And here, let's create a state using use state. And initially, let's assign it with empty array. So this is the third step, creating a state for online users. And in the fourth step, we are listening to the online users to this event. And when this event will happen, we are simply going to call this set online users. And we are going to set the online users array with the array which we are receiving inside this online users variable. Now, we want to use this online users array in our user list component. So we are going to pass this online users array as a props first to this sidebar component. So here, let's specify an attribute. Let's call it online users. And to that, let's assign this online users. Let's save the changes. Then let's go to sidebar component. There with this socket, we are also going to receive online users. And now we are going to pass this online users as a props to this user list. So since this list is becoming a bit lengthy, let me move it to separate lines to make it more readable. Okay. And here, let's say online users equals online users. Let's save the changes in sidebar.js. So now this online users will be passed as a props to this user list. So there also in the user list component, here we are also going to receive a third props called online users. And now we are going to use this online users to display online users in our chat list. So what I'm going to do is, let's scroll down to the JSX. So here, if the user profile pic is present, we are displaying the user profile pic. Otherwise, if the user profile pic is not present, we are displaying an avatar. So here, I'm also going to set a CSS style. And for that, I'm simply going to use style. In there, I'm going to check if online users dot includes the current user ID. So current user ID we are going to get inside this user variable, right? So if it contains the current user ID, then what do we want to do? In that case, we want to set a CSS style. So for that, I'll say if it includes the user ID, then I want to set a CSS style. Which CSS style do I want to set? I want to set border. Okay, and this border should be, let's say it should be green, maybe 3 pixel solid. Otherwise, if the condition is false, I simply want to return an empty string, something like this. Okay, if I save the changes, let's quickly check if we have any errors. So there is no error. Let me move it to a separate line to make it more readable. So for this image, we have the source. We are specifying the alt. class name and a dynamic CSS style. Okay, let's close it here. Let's save the changes. Now currently for none of the users we have a profile pic. So we also need to include this style on the avatar. So let me copy it here, and we are displaying the avatar using this div. So here also on this div we are setting a class name in order to make it more readable. Let me move it to a separate line, something like this. Okay, and then I'm also going to use that same dynamic style here. All right, so everything looks good. Let me save the changes here as well. Let's quickly check if we have any errors. We don't have any errors. All right, now let's go to our application. And here I can see we have an error and it says cannot read properties of undefined. Reading includes. So let's go back to our application. Here we are calling it as online user. Here it is online user. Okay. In the index.js, we are creating online user. That's what we are passing from here. And in the sidebar component also, we are receiving online user, and that's we are passing. Oh, okay. I should have closed it here. Let's save the changes. Let's go to our application. And we will refresh the page one more time. So let me close this. Let's refresh the page now. Let's also refresh the page here. So now we are getting error on style. Now here you see for the online user, as John Smith is online user, you can see that green border is being displayed. So here we don't have any errors. Here it is displaying that green border, but in Chrome we are getting some error. And where are we getting that error? Let's see how we are setting the style in user list. So here we are saying if the online user includes the current user ID. Now this user ID is the user ID of the opposite person with whom the currently logged in user is chatting. So if it includes that user ID, we want to set the border to green 3 pixels solid. Otherwise, let's try to return an empty array. Here also, let's try to return an empty array instead of empty string. Let me save the changes. Let me refresh the page. So now the error is gone. And you can see since Mary Jane is logged in, you can see that green border around it. And here John Smith is also logged in. So for that also you will see this green border around it. But other users are not logged in from any device. So that's why they are offline and it is not showing the green border around them. Okay. Now let's try to display a light green color because the dark green does not look good. So here I'm going to specify a hex color code, which is 82 E0 AA. 0 AA. Let me copy this from here. Let's paste it here. Let's save the changes now. Let's go to our application. And now it is showing a light green border. So this is more visible and it looks better. So in this way, we can also show online users. Let me select this chat here. So for the selected chat also, it is showing that green border. And here also, it is showing that green border. All right, and if I expand it, then there also it is showing the green border. So everything is okay. This is all I wanted to cover in this lecture. If you have any questions, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.